Historical Film Study, Mookie Blaylock, by Cody Houdek. Who is Mookie Blaylock? If I were to select 10 of the most forgotten all-NBA level players in history, Mookie Blaylock would be the starting point guard. During the time of Stockton, Drexler, Payton, Jordan, Miller, and Price, Blaylock is left to near obscurity, besides being Pearl Jam's favorite NBA player. I hadn't given much thought until I drafted him in the all-time NBA auction. During my research, I came across this description on RealGM. Blaylock is a special player who, in my opinion, suffers from a historical standpoint by playing for also ran Hawks in the 90s. Because he isn't a strong scoring point guard, he's not thought of fondly, but he is one of few point guards who really moved the needle defensively and at the least has a credible argument in the GOAT defensive PG discussion. Needless to say, I decided to deep dive into this enigmatic point guard. Writer's note. I originally wrote this article about half a year ago, and unfortunately some of my video clips on Streamable disappeared. Because of this, I had to cut out a couple of key highlights. For instance, my emphasis on Blaylock's rebounding had to be cut significantly, which is a shame because it's truly an impressive skill for his size. Scoring. In 1997, once Blaylock hit his peak, his game looked relatively similar to a modern NBA point guard. His half-court possessions generally started with a pick and roll, and they ended with a pull-up three. The statistics back this up, as he made the second most threes in the league during that season, 8 behind Reggie Miller. And here is the first clip. It was clear that Blaylock had supreme confidence in his own shot-making ability. These couple of plays show an audacious pull-up three and an isolation against Scottie Pippen. That with a solid contest from Jordan. Here's the isolation against Pippen. Granted, this is after Pippen's defensive prime, but I'd still brag about this. This tendency to pull up and not prod in the pick and roll sometimes enticed Blaylock into some forced habits. For instance, he would break out of his game's even flow and pull the trigger too quickly on a long mid-range jumper. If you listen closely, you can hear Daryl Morey crying in the background. Even with his proto-modern shooting mentality, Blaylock's inability to draw fouls limited his efficiency. He showed an incredible burst off the dribble, yet he barely used it. For example, he burns Michael Jordan here. Really, this is a tremendous finish and drive from Blaylock. It's an unfortunate reality, but at Blaylock's 6-foot, 180-pound frame, he simply didn't have the size or strength to finish at an elite level. He showed flashes, but this aspect of his game truly limited him. Why go to the rim if you'll just be punished? Passing. While bigger creators have higher vantage points, Blaylock displayed an all-time passing ability. Ben Taylor's passer rating tops him out at an 8.3, which is right around post-prime Stockton, or current Westbrook. Here is an uncontested layup that he created in the half court, and this is from 1994. His control there is similar to Chris Paul. Similarly, this next pocket pass to Mutombo shows Blaylock's subtle brilliance. Mutombo doesn't even realize how open he is on the roll, but the pass leads him straight to the basket. Rebounding. On another note, one surprising skill that Blaylock had was his rebounding. He was tenacious on both sides of the glass, and he used these as opportunities for Draymond-esque grab-and-goes. Here's a perfectly placed pass in transition. Offensive rebounding is often a skill that helps big men more than guards, but Blaylock weaponized it to improve his portability. In general, Blaylock was an above-average offensive player. His jump shooting and willingness to shoot helped poor offenses. Next to rim rollers and shooters, he could set the table for easy threes and layups. However, his lack of free throws and easy opportunities make him a volatile scorer. He mainly played on ball, but an offensive ceiling is only so high with him as the lead creator. Despite his tendencies, he showed an ability to create off ball. Perhaps he would thrive in a secondary role, but it's not clear. I'm more skeptical, but his limited ability as a number one option would force him to try. Defense. Strengths. Blaylock's defense was what I was most excited about scouting. His defensive metrics score extremely high for a guard, and the Real GM poster showered him with praise. Unfortunately, just like with Doug Christie, I came away disappointed. Yet it's important to remember that defensive scouting isn't black and white. Don't get me wrong, Blaylock is a great defender considering his size and lack of a Jeremy Evans pogo stick vertical. Also, unlike most other small guards, he's tremendous on the defensive glass. In the half court, he often helped off his man for a soft double in the paint. Since most point guards at the time couldn't punish him, he was able to recover quickly enough. This wasn't called a charge, but Blaylock's help defense stalls the shooter long enough to get blocked. He also had a knack for creating turnovers. As a matter of fact, he led the league in steals twice, which he created through quick reactions and knowing where to be. Again, this is ridiculous timing. His tenacity didn't always make the box score, as shown through the backcourt turnovers that he created. Defense. Limitations. As I've mentioned a couple of times now, Blaylock was small, which limited his defensive potential. Blaylock was helpless against Air Jordan in the mid-post. This clip is just one play, but I could have used at least two more from this game alone. Furthermore, Blaylock struggled with a few knucklehead mistakes. Here he idly waits for Jordan in the paint, but he leaves oceans of space for Pippen, who's just chilling on a porch after a simple kick to the corner. Even though the garden of defensive 6-foot point guards lacks any significant flowers, compared to the rest of the NBA history besides Chris Paul, Blaylock may hold the crown as the best on defense. However, he ultimately wouldn't affect the defense that positively. I'd score him as a neutral to slight plus. Final evaluation of Mookie Blaylock. Role: 15th to 20th best first best player in the league. Skill set compared to other players at his position. I'd give his playmaking out of 10 an 8, his scoring a 5, defense an 8, rebounding an 8, and portability a 4. I ended up ranking Blaylock as a lower level proficient scorer because of his inability to get an easy bucket. He was too reliant on the pull-up jumper, which, at his shooting percentages and fondness for deep twos, can come and go. Both this and his size make his portability average. As I said before, he could be useful as an off-ball creator, and he has tremendous defensive abilities, but he is locked into one position, can't guard bigger guards, and is better with the ball in his hands. Perception in today's NBA. Because of their shared defensive grittiness and ability to pull up in space, Blaylock would be compared to Mike Conley. Blaylock compared to a current player. Even though both preferred having the ball, Conley was a much more effective off-ball player. He was the floor general of the grit and grind Grizzlies, but he would have been much better as a second option on the perimeter. I don't think that Blaylock would have thrived in a secondary role quite like Conley. With the pull-up propensity, lack of easy buckets, and fantastic passing, D'Angelo Russell is Blaylock's best modern comp. Blaylock was better in almost every facet of the game besides scoring, but Russell has a chance to surpass him as he develops.